Attention bobsled riders! You will soon be embarking on a thrilling podcast down the icy slopes of the Matterhorn. So please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the bobsled at all times. Auf Wiedersehen!
Hello, yodelers! We are the Matterhorn Yodelers.
We are?
We are. I am Japheth, and I'm here with...
Jackie?
And...
Uncle Sam. I mean Peter.
Uncle Peter.
Uncle Peter.
As my daughter would say.
Yeah. Does she?
No. Everybody's dad. Dad. And then mama goes, no, mama! So we're not here to talk about my daughter. We are here to talk about patriotic Disney, with the United States celebrating its birth of a nation, 4th of July, celebrations, fireworks, traditions with, barbecues and swimming pools, hot dogs, hamburgers,
apple pie.
Gotta get mom's burgers out there. Oh,
Yep.
That's a classic in our house. And so we wanted to do an episode on, patriotic, activities with Disney, themes, history, just everything with patriotism with the Disney company and Walt himself.
Yes.
And so with that being said, Walt was an American, he had a lot of patriotic pride, to say the least. It's just like,
Yes.
it shows in
yeah.
his products and the values. And it comes at a time he was born in a time of national pride. A lot of nationalism back then. He was born in late 1800s. Or
1901.
1901. So it's turn of the 20th century, and there's a lot of national pride because you have World War I. That was a battle of nationalism. So there's just a lot of pride. America's coming to its own. A lot of great changes. And Walt, and I think the journey starts with this story. We all read the biography of Walt Disney. We all did a book report on Walt Disney.
At least one.
At least once.
Yeah.
I did maybe too many.
How many times did you put your paper in and it said you plagiarized yourself?
Well, that only happened once. That happened from junior to senior year, which I had the same teacher junior to senior year. So that was kind of interesting. Should I even read it? And I'm like, it's different. It's just worded slightly different.
You got rid of ands and does.
Pretty much.
In order to...
Instead of this sentence being this paragraph, that sentence is in that paragraph.
Oh, I love the kind of games we played in school to get away. So with Walt, in the 5th grade, he decided to pay tribute to the hero of America that kept it together, Lincoln. And according to Bob Thomas, an American original, Walt, he converted his dad's derby hat into a stovepipe hat, and with cardboard and shoe polish, borrowed his father's church deacon coat and swallowtails, and he put his hat or his hair a certain way, and he dressed the costume, and he read the Gettysburg Address first class, and the principal was so impressed by Walt's performance that he asked Walt to recite the speech for all the classes, which became an annual ritual that continued until Walt graduated. So that teaches you a lesson. Don't be too good at something, or you'll have to do it forever.
Yep.
And he was Mr. Lincoln. And, you got to think, Mr. Lincoln was like 60 years prior. And for us, we're like, it's so long ago. But 60 years, that's us thinking of JFK.
Yep.
And, like, what he did. And, or, what, like, going to the moon and stuff like those actions. And, that's more like 50. But it's still, like, that's how close he was to Lincoln. And that pride of keeping the Union together in such a critical moment in American history. And so Lincoln was the man. And, if you were going to choose a president, he was the one, especially at that time, to pick from. And so, like, from this, it continues on. He, got swept away in the national pride, nationalism. He wanted to serve, join the war during World War II, but he was too young. Like you said, in 1901, war ends in 1919. So it's...
They had to Walt's mom altered his birth certificate and turned that 1 into a 0 so
Yeah.
that he can join the
It's right here, the American Ambulance
Yeah.
Corps.
the American Ambulance Corps.
So basically, he's got that stretcher out, and he's
Yep.
transporting the bodies or the people. We'll see the people from hospitals to hospital. You know, there's transition where you got trauma, and then we're rehabilitation. Been watching Downton Abbey, and so got to that period where like
yes.
So it's kind of like he's a vehicle. Well, the armistice is signed, you know, once he shows up in France, and so he ends up drawing cartoons and characters for the soldiers. You know, it just shows you like, well, I'm going to do what I can do, and I'm going to cheer up these people. I'm going to, you know, help them send letters, and so I think that's really cool. Like he shared his talents, you know, with people that were in the fight, and I didn't know that about him, and I thought that was really cool. His patriotism continues on in World War II, where he's creating films and unit insignias for the military during that time period, taking huge hits financially in that time period. We discussed that a little bit in our if we go back in time,
Back in Disney Past.
where you know, just to give you a feel of what was going on during that time period. And then we get, you know, great moments with Mr. Lincoln and that stage production, and it shows with patriotism. You know, back in the time when they had the tickets, the A through E, and Walt felt so strongly about this presentation that a complimentary ticket was included with each park admission. And on the back of it says, "So young people may have a better knowledge of man who played such an important part in American history." And it's like, wow, Walt like really felt about that moment. Like, here's a ticket. Everyone needs to do this.
There you have it. There you have it. Next time you go to Disneyland, you have to go see Mr. Lincoln now because Walt Disney wanted you to.
Yeah. He
so
would have
good.
he would have given you a ticket himself. That basically is Walt giving you a ticket. Like, here's a free ticket to this attraction.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool. We discussed that, you know, that doesn't come into fruition until after the 64 World Fair, which was the previous episode that we just did. And so that, I mean, that's just a sense of Walt's pride and what he did, just at his level. And so now I'm going to discuss, like, okay, it's the 4th of July. We all have, like, the weekend off. We may even get Monday off because 4th of July is on Sunday. So you got a little extra time. So these are some, I feel, some patriotic movies on Disney Plus you can watch. Let's start off with, there's Miracle. About the 1980s Team USA story about the Miracle on Ice. I think that's
Great story.
It's
It's
a
a good story.
inspirational story. I don't want to blow it, but it's dealing with a hockey team that's the underdog, and
America loses.
And-
No.
you know, Coach Bombay comes out and shows them the flying
Starts
V.
quacking.
You just hear it's America's anthem. It's quack, quack, quack. And boy, my daughter, whenever she sees a bird, she just says quack. It's quack or da, da. She can't do K's or G's, so everything's a dog or a duck. But she loves quack, and boy, would she love this movie if they had
Right.
quacking in there. So I think that's just a movie. I think parents kind of like, it came out early 2000s, and it's got Kurt Russell in it. You know, that was one of Walt's go-to like young
Yes.
actors at the time. I think it's a great movie that parents can definitely share their young kids, and it's got a good message, a good story, and then parents could talk about the time period, or their grandparents could talk about the time period between Soviet Union and USA and the times of the 80s and that Cold War time period.
Attention.
Yeah, for sure. Also, there is Hamilton.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Hamilton the play was recorded at a popular Broadway theater depicting Alexander Hamilton's life. I put like on there. It's like, what am I doing with K and F? That's ridiculous. And it's like, you want to know why the guy on the $10 bill is on there and not because of the old, got milk commercial.
Rubber.
Yeah, who shot Alexander Hammer, and he's got all the peanut butter in his mouth, and he's got all like the memorabilia. He even has the bullet and the guns, and he's gonna win this money, and he can't because he doesn't have any milk, and he's just trying to say Aaron Burr.
Aaron Burr.
I love that commercial. I had no
Yep.
I
didn't know who Alexander Hamilton was.
No.
Nope.
But I knew who killed Alexander
Aaron
Hamilton
Burr.
thanks to Got Milk.
Got Milk commercials from the early 2000s, and I love it. And it just, like, when you watch this, I wasn't thinking of this. I got more history when going through school, but my young teenager self really appreciate it. Hamilton, I love this.
It's good.
I love it. I watch it probably once every 2 months.
It's a feel-good movie.
And it can be hard because it has a faster pace of singing. It's not your 1776, so sit down, George. It doesn't have that feel. It's modern music, rap style, and so it may be difficult to follow. So I do recommend
Put the subtitles
on. It will help you. It took me 2 or 3 times to really appreciate what's being sung because they're singing throughout this whole thing, and I just love it. Great message, great story. It's the American story before America. Like this guy is living the American story.
We commonly hear about the Revolutionary War where we fought for our right to be a country. We don't normally hear the story of how our country came to be.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's what this story shares.
It shares, his contribution and his intermingling with
other
patriots of this revolution, and it's well done. I don't have to praise the play any more than what it is, but I enjoy it. So recommend it. Next movie, Captain America: First Avenger.
Of course.
Not historically accurate. Captain America wasn't real. Spoiler. But I think the first one, get the World War II and just the feel
it definitely
of the
has
time
that
period.
Patriotism vibe throughout at least the first half of the movie.
Yeah.
Before you get into
steroids can beat the Nazis and Red Skull.
Hydra. Before you get into Hydra, it's it's all about serving your country. What are you gonna do to contribute?
Right.
Getting up, even though you're the small guy, you keep getting up, and that's the theme with, when he gets in that first fight and he's the small guy.
I can go all day.
Yeah.
I
know. And that's just the theme, and so that's what's great. Next one, these are a pair: National Treasure 1, National Treasure 2.
They're good. I enjoy the National Treasure series.
I love them. I was so disappointed when they're like, "Where's National Treasure 3?"
Every time it's coming. I heard it's coming.
It's been like that for like 5, 6, 7 years. I just every year, when's it coming? Look. It's one of those things I catch myself. When's the next movie? When are they go? Is the script written yet? It's like Indiana Jones 5.
Oh,
what's the status? Where are we at, please? It's just I want.
Is there a chance it's
I
gonna
want
be
more,
released?
and I just love it. It's like it goes along. It's historical. It's fun pace. Every time I watch the movie, it makes me want I want to read a history book. I want to learn more about this time period, and
it makes you want to go into conspiracy theories and.
Yes, it's true. The book of what is the book of
secrets?
Book of secrets.
Yeah.
What book? There's no
Area
book.
51. There's Area 51.
We got some documentaries out there about space race and series. You got Apollo missions to the moon. And you also have The Right Stuff.
The Right Stuff.
I never watched it. You watched it.
It's great. It's such a great series. You really get into the mindset of how these pilots became American heroes without having to do anything, just because they were maybe going into space.
Mm-hmm.
And their story and what they had to go through. It was a great story.
It's cool to watch. I've watched a couple episodes. It's just cool to see how they create a pilot into an astronaut.
Oh,
I know. I always enjoy the part where the pilots realize that they're not piloting anything. They're just like, what?
You're just pushing buttons.
You're just sitting there. You're just along for the ride. That's all you're there for, and they weren't happy about that.
Oh, I'm sure. You get to feel that, and this is not on Disney Plus, but Netflix, The Crown. There's an episode where Queen Elizabeth's husband really wants to meet with the Apollo 11 crew,
Oh, yes.
and he's so disappointed finding out it was like we were just so mechanical. We were just there's no time to think, and it's just like you're just pushing buttons and seeing status. That's what it kind of reminds me of, and
Yep.
it kind of confirms that. If you're really into this subject, I recommend the HBO series From the Earth to the Moon. It was directed by Ron Howard. It's not on Disney Plus, but it is a great.
This is like an HBO thing.
It was an HBO series, and I'm probably on HBO Max. It's probably on there. But it's a great series if you want more information on the Apollo missions. All right, so back to Earth. We got Pollyanna. We're going back to Turn the Century.
Pollyanna.
It's very cute.
Yes.
Such a cute movie.
Such a feel good.
Has a great ending. Just kidding. It doesn't.
You didn't see Yodeler Jackie shaking your head. It's like Anne with it. You're like, okay. So Pollyanna just has that turn of the century feel, early America, where the community's just together, and it makes you feel like, man, I wish we were like that still.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, dang
Simple.
suburbs, you ruined
Simple.
everything.
Simple life.
It was. Kept thinking, and how one orphan can really influence everyone's life. You got the Davy Crockett films. I mean,
Yeah.
that was.
I just watched those recently, and they're really good.
Before the space race, you wanted to be a cowboy and frontiersman, and those are some of the themes you saw in the Disney parks at the time. You have the Davy Crockett canoes still at Disneyland. Everybody saw the raccoon hat. That was
Yep.
popularized by Davy Crockett and Walt's, character.
Something that they did not realize was going to happen.
Got to stick on top of that merchandise. Got to
Yep.
boom.
That's what that's the lesson they learned from Davy Crockett. Was like, oh, merchandise.
Baby Yoda. Oh, drop the ball on that one. We didn't think it was going to be that cute. Yeah.
Well, that was Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau asked Disney not to do that.
Oh,
Not to do for
well,
me.
I'm sure Disney was just biting at the
Oh,
bit
I
on
bet
that
they
one.
were. I bet they were not
They
happy
broke through
about
that bit real quick, and they're just like, never again. And then you have the adventures of Huck Finn, the one from the 90s. Again, you're dealing with Mark Twain's story. That's a fun one to share. And then you have Tall Tale. Do you remember this film?
I do. I've only seen it once, but I
Yeah.
do remember Tall Tale. I remember the guy riding the tornado.
Yes.
That's the scene I remember.
And so you have American folklore that's not really being told.
Yeah.
And you don't hear it in schools. It's folklore. There's
Yeah,
enough in
Paul
school.
Bunyan,
Yeah.
Pecos Bill, and there was somebody else, wasn't there?
And
I forget.
and Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan.
So here's the synopsis. A young boy's imagination summons cowboy legend Pecos Bill, whose courage and frontiers mentality saves the family farm from a greedy land grabber. With the help of a lofty lumberjack and hulling railroad worker, they all embark on an incredible journey where danger and surprise awaits at every turn. It's a cute 90s style film. It's not, oh my gosh, it's not earth shattering, but it's cute, and it does share kind of our little bit of folklore. We don't have the German fairy tales. We have these kind of characters in American expansion. The heading out west. Living off taking the land and making it. The industrial America that we know. I have some mentions to be on the look for. They may not be there. Ben and Me.
That is on there.
I looked. I could not find it on there.
It's in a compilation with something else.
Okay.
I forgot what it is, but it is very patriotic based. There's a Walt Disney presents. If they released it last year, and I watched it.
I watched it last year, but I could not find it when I.
Oh, is it not there? It might not be there. They
That's
might
why I
have
said
pulled it.
it may be on like, hey, we'll throw it in during.
It
4th of July.
might come in for 4th of July.
And basically, it's a story where Benjamin Franklin had an assistant. It was a little rat or a mouse. I think it was a mouse. It's probably a mouse. But it's his assistant through, his help with, his inventions and the revolution. And Walt, there builds the story, and you actually look when he's going through. You're like, oh, what did they find? This archaeological find, and then you find out it's some fabricated story before he goes into it. So Walt again pulls you in before the story even begins. And then there's Johnny Tremaine, and so it's a story about it takes place in it was filmed in the 50s or 60s, something like that. I don't know if you've seen where Johnny interacts with American legends like Samuel Adams and Paul Revere. The movie contains a stirring Disney anthem called The Sons of Liberty, basically talking about the start of the American Revolution. And so I say those are the movies to be on the lookout for. I've given a huge list, just the feel-goods on Disney+. I probably watch Hamilton. Another family tradition is watch 1776.
Not Disney.
Not Disney.
Still
But it's got George Feeney.
Yeah, Mr. Feeney. in it.
Mr. Feeney.
Yeah.
Young Feeney. So,
He's got some pipes.
yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Sit down, George. Not Sir George.
John.
John, yeah. He's George to me. George Feeney. Oh, he's Feeney. All right, we're going to go to the parks. We're going to see what was patriotic
In the past.
in the past.
Because
Past.
coming to me, we're talking about history. That's where I tend to shine a little bit. So I'm going to talk a little bit some of the things that used to be in the theme parks, maybe some old parades or shows that are no longer there, but were really interesting and noteworthy. The first one I want to mention is America on Parade. And this is the parade that Disney had going from 1975 to 1976. This was a parade that they made for the bicentennial. It was a big celebration for our nation. It
I
was,
feel left out.
I know.
I was like, man, I wasn't that far from it.
and we're not close to the
I know.
tricentennial.
I'll be surprised if I make it.
Right. There's
Or
gonna
I
be a
drank
long
that
list.
Slurpee today. I was like, I am 1 year less. Closer to that.
So it was a very patriotic time across the nation, and so Disney, they jumped on board with that. They had 50 parade units,
Whoa.
Whoa.
150 character performers.
Wow.
This was a massive parade.
Let's say the least.
So I pulled some of the highlighted floats. So for the most part, the only Disney characters you saw were on the first float and on the last float. The first float was Mickey, Donald, and Goofy standing on like a drum and a giant eagle behind them in colonial revolutionary
Running for their
war.
life because the eagle was going to eat them.
It definitely, the eagle's really tall. But
The eagle is a scavenger.
thief and a coward. Yeah, they're wearing colonial Revolutionary War soldier garb, and they're drumming and marching with the flag and all that stuff. Great start to the parade. The rest are kind of like these. The best way I can describe it are, think of It's a Small World dolls. Turn those dolls into adults and make them like 7-8 feet tall.
Those poor character performers.
They were huge. These things were massive. They had like baby faces, and so the men would have like these baby faces with beards, and it looked. You look pictures of this, and they looked weird.
Is this like the trend that I see my wife where they like smooth out your face and turn it into a cartoon? Have you seen
yes,
that?
Oh, yeah.
where they make you into a Disney cartoon.
Yeah, it's just
It's
creepy.
really, it is a little
Yeah.
creepy.
Oh,
So-
gosh.
So you get a lot of those characters on these floats. So the first one you see is you'll see Columbus on a ship, then a giant turkey with some pilgrims and some Native Americans.
Majestic bird.
Yes, majestic bird. You had Ben Franklin flying a kite, and they make a note that says there was no key. on this kite as like a critique to it. We're gonna critique Disney back in the 70s here. It's not correct. You had Betsy Ross making the American flag. Let's see here. We had some sort of riverboat captain. It had a cowboy section with some cowboys, Indians, can girls, Tom Sawyer. They had a float for the joining of the rails. So they had this float with the two trains facing each other. Like,
yeah, it was in Utah where they had
So like they had that float. Then they kind of move more forward into history. America on the Move, which goes into more of like the vehicles, like the airplanes and the rocket ships and the battleships.
They have like a jet fly through.
This is 70s. Not at that point, no. Then they had like a sports float. And then, funny enough, the last float is a giant sandwich. It's like this
tall... be happy!
It's this tall sandwich. What says America? Like, food.
How about a melting pot?
No, giant sandwich. You see this thing. This thing's just got like 6 layers of bread, sort of thing. Like, is this that cartoonish style sandwich where
oh
my goodness.
That's what they want to end that last float with, and they
sandwiches, America.
We got Sammy's.
Then they had like a marching band, and then they had like a jazz thing at the end where they had some of the cats from the Aristocats
playing
jazz music.
Yeah.
So
nothing says America than Parisian cats playing jazz behind a giant sandwich.
They had to promote somehow.
I imagine they laid out the parade and a guy was eating a sandwich and he just left it at the end of the parade and they're like, "What's the sandwich for?" "Oh, that's a great idea. It's very symbolic and it means a lot." He's like, "It's just my lunch."
Right? Yeah. It's just like you see the picture of it. It's like, yeah, that's just a giant sandwich. All right.
I
Yeah.
had no idea.
God bless America. So prior to this parade, so this went for 2 years. This parade for afternoon and an evening performance. So. Before this, they had the Main Street Electrical Parade, but it wasn't until after this parade that they added the American flag float.
Which is the
anchor? The anchor. It's the one that's like 3 or 4 lengths long, floats long.
That was the one when I closed down the Haunted Mansion. They would always have the parade late at night during the week, and I'd be able to follow it and go through.
Yeah, it was true. When I was at the parks and they had the electric parade at Disney World when I was a CP, and there was a part where I was like, okay, where are they in the parade? Okay, I gotta go now before it gets crazy.
It cuts you off.
All right, so we got another parade. This one happened in 1991 called Celebration USA Parade. Okay?
Oh, is this the one Disney World?
This is still Disneyland.
Oh, Disneyland.
This was all Disneyland. Disney World, I actually couldn't find that many things for Disney World for attractions that are no longer there.
Because they still exist.
That's true. They hold on to things.
They hold on to things at Disney
From
World.
my cool dead hands. Unless it's Epcot.
So,
this one exist anymore.
This one's kind of weird. This one only went for 5 months in June of 1991. The only reasoning I could see why they did this, and I don't think that this is the reason why, but in June of 1991, that's when there was a big celebration in the nation for the end of Operation Desert Storm.
That's true. Yeah.
So a few days after that announcement, this parade started, and it's a very 90s parade. That's the best way I can describe it. The music is very early 90s,
like
pop-ish, like you listen to the music and you go, yeah, this is screaming 90s. It's not a very good parade. It was
got the windbreakers. And
yeah,
I can hear it already.
So the next parade, which happened the next year, was World According to Goofy. And
Gosh.
Oh
yeah.
my.
So this one kind of just shows it kind of like is a parade about the history of Goofy's impact, Goofy's ancestors' impact on the world. And the last section is Goofy running for president, and you see a giant inflatable Goofy dressed up like Uncle Sam. So, those are the three parades. Those were the parades I could find that were patriotic themed. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, and you may ask yourself, that still exists. Why are you talking about
Didn't
this?
they have a different rendition?
There was a different rendition.
There was something different that they added.
So this goes back. So the story of this goes back to 1990. Rumors started coming out, and this was confirmed that they were going to do this. That they were going to move Muppet Vision and take out Mr. Lincoln.
Oh yeah.
And again, keep in mind this is 1990, before the internet. Fans were furious.
Never changed anything at Disneyland.
They were furious. Like they had protesters come. They had like
someone,
9. They
someone
had
inside leaked it,
Mhm.
and they're like, "No,
They
I'm
had,
not gonna let this
They had
happen."
9,000 people protesting on Main Street that they were not to remove Mr. Lincoln for the Muppets.
That's a hard one.
But
yeah.
management's dealing with this show that isn't pulling in audience. It
Yeah.
wasn't filling the theater. People were just walking by it, not even knowing that it was still there. And so they said, well, we got to do something different. And so in 2001, so 10 years later, they finally figured out what they were going to do with it.
They're gonna put the giant model of the Capitol.
No, that happened later. They had this show that they had going at the MGM Studios, Sounds Dangerous with Drew Carey,
Oh gosh.
where
Oh my.
it's a show where it's only audio, where you have to wear headphones and you hear Drew Carey getting a haircut. Well,
I'm so glad I missed that one.
we saw it.
I'm so
We
glad
saw it.
I repressed those memories.
We saw it when we went in 2001. I know that because I remember the show. So they did something similar. So at the start of the show, you listen to a conversation of a Union soldier getting a haircut,
Oh gosh.
Oh no.
talking about how he met President Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, and how he's an amputee, how he doesn't have a leg anymore.
Oh my.
He's getting a good haircut. Boy.
And then the show ends with Lincoln giving the Gettysburg Address. And that's the Great Moments with Mr. I think they called it the new Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, featuring the Gettysburg Address. That lasted until it closed February 20th, 2005. And they closed that for the they were prepping for the 50th anniversary show, Disneyland.
Should I go back to the old one?
And then once that show was old, then they brought back the original Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln that we all love today. So
I love that AC.
that's
Oh,
a great
it's so
AC.
good.
I'm just
It's
I'm thinking about it
wonderful.
right now, going.
All right. So the next thing that's probably worth talking about would be a show called America Sings.
Mm-hmm.
So America Sings was this animatronic show in Tomorrowland. It took over Carousel of Progress, which you can learn more about from our episode last week, where we talked a little bit about the history of the Carousel of Progress attraction.
It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
That's right. So America Sings is just a show with these animatronic animals singing a lot of American music throughout the creation of our country. The different types of music, from songs from the South, not Song of the South, songs from the South.
Why did it stay that long? I don't understand.
They had jazz music. They had, God Bless America, America the Beautiful, that sort of patriotic music. So you really got a feel of the culture of the music at that time. That attraction closed on April 10th, 1988. And at that time, you can actually still see remnants of that attraction today, and not just one, but 2 attractions.
They love recycling.
They love recycling their animatronics. You might think, where are you going to put a bunch of animatronic animals? Splash Mountain. And literally, the final scene, the zippity-doo-dah scene, you can see all those, the chickens, the crocodiles, the raccoons playing on the turtle, and all that stuff. Like, that was all from the America Sings attraction. The other attraction, believe it or not, is Star Tours. And you're like, what? Star Tours? Yeah, so what they did was they took a couple geese, they took the skin off, and just placed them in the queue. They were in the original Star Tours attraction. They were in the droid maintenance bay, and now it's the security check. But those droids that you see in that section of the queue were geese in the America Sings attraction.
Oh, that's really cool.
So they just literally ripped the skin off, and there you go. We got some droids.
It's like, hey, we need some droids. You just see them skinning a goose, and they're like, here you go. And they're like, I guess it works.
So, it's kind of a fun thing.
Don't worry, it's animatronic. Still doesn't help.
And
It's
then...
like purposely plucking the fat. Like, what are you doing? This is what you do. It's like, it's not real.
Oh, gosh.
So then the next attraction, again, another one in Tomorrowland, was a Circle Vision show called America the Beautiful, which was a Circle Vision movie, which if you don't know what Circle Vision is, you're in a giant theater that has no seats, which stinks.
It's the worst.
It's the worst.
You go to Epcot and you're like, oh, Circle Vision.
It's the worst thing ever because, like, you want to watch the show, but you have to stand.
And you go on the handrails and you're like, get down!
Get
on the handrails!
You get yelled at. You know, they're for leaning only. And so you're in this giant theater where you're completely surrounded by screens and you're watching scenic views, listening to patriotic music.
As they inject oranges in the audience.
Like oranges! Yeah. Then you get into like Frontierland. Literally that whole land is America.
Yeah.
So like everything there that used to be there, you could say, yeah, it's American.
Tom Sawyer's Island.
Tom Sawyer's Island.
Before it turned into Pirates Cove.
Yep, that was a classic Americana sort of attraction. One I do want to talk about is the Indian Village.
Chief Waves a lot?
Before Chief Waves a lot. I think this came before Chief Waves a lot.
Oh, yeah, the village where Splash Mountain's at.
Correct. So what was cool about this was this show that they had at the Indian Village was being run by the different tribes. So it wasn't like this like insulting show making fun of
No, it was them sharing
that
their
culture. It was them actually showing people their culture, and they were like a part of it, and they loved doing it. It was, and every time you went, there was like a different tribe and a part of it, so you learned different things every time you went.
And if you like, we're here in the Southwest, and we have the luxury of viewing these beautiful dances,
Yes.
and sharing in the culture and the Indian fried bread because it's really good. I definitely recommend, like, it's not an attraction anymore, but
No.
Pull up on YouTube and type in, tribal dances and from America's Southwest or Native American, or the competitions, like how they do the ring dances.
The ring dancing is so
the
cool.
rings that they use, and they're like making balls out of them and wings, and it's just continuously moving.
Very
It's
elaborate.
amazing.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
It's
Definitely
great.
recommend that.
That's like nothing screams American more to me than that. Like,
Yeah.
that's great. Let's see here. Yeah, you had the Mike Fink keel boats. Those were actually movie props from the Davy Crockett show. They were props. They brought them over to the parks, and it showed that they were props because they didn't last very long.
Didn't have the longevity.
No, I think the last American one I really want to talk about, maybe I got another one, but is the American Space Experience. Do you remember this? This was a part of the New Tomorrowland of 1998. So this was where the current FastPass machines are for Buzz Lightyear and Star Tours.
Okay.
So there was this little display celebrating NASA, and so it was their anniversary. And so they had like displays of like what they were planning on doing for I think the Mars landing had just happened with their rover.
Okay.
And they were planning another one.
You could see how much you weighed in Mars.
That's right.
And Saturn and like.
Yes. So you got a little bit of a America space thing there. That lasted till 2003. So from 98 to 2003, that was there until they got rid of. They put in Buzz Lightyear.
They put Buzz Lightyear because rocket rods went down.
Yep. Rocket rods went down, and they turned that space, that queue into Buzz Lightyear, and some of that space got taken up.
Love that.
And so now it's just FastPass machines.
Yeah.
So that's there.
Do they even have FastPass machines anymore?
They do.
Yes.
They do. At Disneyland, they do. Disney World, it's a little different.
There were some signs of them coming back.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
They're going away from Magic Bands? Sounded like.
It sounds
like Disney
my
World.
guess, and
it's a logistic nightmare.
it may be similar to Max Pass. My guess
it sounds like they want to go. They saw what Disneyland did, and they're like, Disneyland is far more efficient than the Disney World Magic Band.
Oh yes.
They were just getting ready to bring the Magic Bands when I was leaving. They were getting the kiosk. I remember we had the kiosk. I was there for the beginning parts of it where we had these like posts. Your reservation, okay. And most cast members were like, we're here 30 minutes early. Okay, it's fine. Just like, I don't care. Just leave.
Right. Okay, so the only other one I have for Disneyland Park was the Carnation Plaza. That's where the Princess Fantasy Fair area is, off the hub next to the castle. They just had some jazz bands. You could do swing dancing.
I missed the dance hall. As an adult, I've never got to experience it.
I think on the weekends they still do it.
Really?
They still do the dancing on some weekends.
Because they're done with the shows in the afternoon.
Yeah, I think by 5 o'clock they're done, and so they.
I just remember just dead space.
It was dead. It was the point. What had become when we were going was overflow for the
Mexican restaurant.
The Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Food's so good.
Oh yeah, it's great. And it was the secret pathway to get into Frontierland really quick.
Yeah.
From Fantasyland.
Not so quick anymore.
Not so quick anymore. It's a nightmare to go through that section. So, yep, that closed in April 30th, 2012 to make way for that little princess meet and greet. California Adventure, it's California, so the only one it's worth mentioning is Soaring Over California. Everything else, I wanted to separate, California and Hollywood and all that stuff, sure, but, I wanted to, separate be what's
it's
America.
It's like including the Tiki Room. It's this state, and it's like, nah, it doesn't encompass the whole United
Correct.
States.
So, Soaring Over California is the closest one I could really feel that was, makes you feel like this is America.
Yeah.
I went to Disney World, honestly, the funny thing is, I can only go to the Hollywood Studios or MGM Studios. Because, everything else is still there.
They will kill a ride, and it's gone
right.
forever.
So, the only ones I would mention would be the Great Movie Ride, which is the display of classic American movies throughout history.
I love the ending where they show you all the clips.
The compilation.
Yeah, and you just I want to go home and watch movies.
Yeah. Yep. It did exactly that. And the only other place I could find, and I'm sure there's others, was the Streets of America.
Oh, yes.
Where you could walk down New York, San Francisco. I think they had a Washington section, Washington Square, something like that. So those were the attractions that I could find in the time frame that I done research for. If there are other attractions that you remember from the Disney parks, or if you remember any of these, let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jackie.
So
What do we got still?
We're
That's
gonna
not
go
going?
in current if you are wanting that American being
Now.
patriotic.
Now.
And
And parks are open. They're
All the
full.
parks in the world are open today.
So we're gonna go with Disney World because a lot of patriotic attractions and shows are at Disney
They're
World.
still a part, yeah.
So the first one, of course, is the American Adventure Show.
At Epcot?
Yep, Epcot.
Oh, I love
And
that
the
show.
American Pavilion. Who would have thought?
You would feel patriotic at the
Feel
American Pavilion.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I love it.
I like the little gift shop there.
It's so
Would have
small.
the little books of like.
I bought so many little books there. Well, I think the better one is the one by the Hall of Presidents. They had a bigger gift shop.
Well, they got rid of that gift shop.
I remember them getting rid of
They
it.
got rid of it. It was like a Princess Tiana meet and greet when I was there.
Really?
Yep.
Because that one was on the other side, where the person who did the caricatures. That's where her meet and greet, which she had a little gazebo.
Yeah. They move. I think if it rains, they move her in there.
That makes sense.
But yeah, they got rid of that gift shop. But, okay, so the American Adventure Show is a 30-minute audio animatronic stage show that highlights notable events and people in American history, hosted by Benjamin Franklin and Mark Twain.
Two great characters of American history. People who just, like, don't care what you think.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, they're just like, I'm me. Deal.
Very true.
We also have the Muppets Great Moments. This is a 10-minute show presented a few times throughout the day, filled with history, puppetry, and the Muppets brand of silly humor. So it's basically a Muppet little show in front of like Hall of Presidents in Liberty Square.
Wow, that's new.
It's kind of...
It's an entertaining show. It's a cute little show. I hope they bring it back soon.
Yeah, I hope they do too.
Because it went away around the same time. It went away right before COVID. They were doing a lot of entertainment cuts, but there was a lot of demand that they kept the Muppets. They just didn't have the show running. So like the Muppets would be in the windows doing silly things.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
How fun.
Another attraction in Liberty Square, which obviously is very patriotic.
Nothing more American than a poop river.
A land named Liberty Square.
The Hall of Presidents, where the show shines a spotlight on each president as he moves or nods in acknowledgement.
Good luck moving Grover Cleveland.
And then, of course, it highlights Abraham Lincoln, who rises from his chair and gives the Gettysburg Address.
So, when I worked there, Hall of Presidents was the attraction that you'd want, because
It's the kidnapper, right?
It's the kidnapper ride. No. Story behind that is I told somebody that it was a kidnapper ride, meaning like kids can take naps, that there are not actual kidnappers in there. It was one of those I was saying, it's like, that's not what I was trying to say, but I've already said it, so let's acknowledge it. No, it's like people would go there, and if you just want a nice, like, chill ride to be in, like, that was the one. So you see a lot of old timers. So you'd see, like, Miss Joe, I think that's who it was, where she was there, like, day one, and, like, she only, like, she did, like, training, where she, like, brought people around where they need to go, or she, like, did that attraction, which was just, like, you do your speech, and then you gotta push a button halfway through the show or something like that, so you can't fall asleep, or you got in trouble. that something would happen. Like Grover Cleveland would just like get hungry and eat one of like Thomas Jefferson's wig. I don't know what happens.
I'll tell you one thing. It was a hard show for me to fall asleep to, at least in the first part when you're watching the screen show with the rocket taking off. You're just like...
Fort Sumter.
And you're just like, oh my gosh. It's when they're announcing the presidents when you're like,
oh yeah.
Oh, we're only on 27. Okay. Calvin Coolidge, we can take a break. So in the beginning of that attraction, you'd have, there was a Disney worker, I don't know if he's still there, his name was James. And so they're wearing their like white socks, and he would go there and it wasn't required, but he would give presidential trivia. And it was always interesting, and that's what I always loved about those cast members that would go above and beyond. And James was tall, stature. He would give out the thing, the questions, and because you're just waiting for the show, and you get bored just being in. There's not a lot of things to interact with, like Great Moments with Lincoln in that hall. And so I always liked that about James when he gave his speeches, and it made it fun. Like, oh, I can't wait. What am I going to learn today?
Yeah, so that's a pretty good... I mean, it's a nice show to relax.
I've taken many naps in there.
Actually, I only remember watching the show once, maybe twice when I was working.
Yeah, when you work there, you're only going to the park for 2-3 hours. And lots of people are just like, let me go to a 20-minute show. And just sit. Like, I came here to ride rides.
It's true. It's true.
If I had to choose between Space Mountain and Hall of Presidents, I would choose Hall of Presidents.
Wow.
Over that Space Mountain. I don't like that Space Mountain.
Okay. Well, at Magic Kingdom and at Disneyland, they do a flag retreat ceremony.
Yep.
Every day. It's lowered by security guard and sometimes veterans that are presented that day. And
fun fact about that, during COVID, they still did the flag retreat every single day.
That's great. Even the park's not open.
The park wasn't even open. Nobody was watching, but security would come and do the flag retreat every single day.
I think there's some honor with that, being security, too.
There was a video that they showed at Disney World or Disneyland where they showed the security guard and talking about the honor that it is in doing this tradition. Because Disney has been there, you know, post Korean War, and you got Vietnam, and then we've got our global war on terror. Like, it's, you know, America's gone through some periods that are trying for a lot of families, and but Disney's always shown that respect with this tradition of lowering and raising the flag at Disneyland or Disney World.
Yeah. So it's really cool. It's usually around 4:45 at the flagpole. It's at the end of Main Street, so a lot of the time people miss it, but if you get a chance, it's pretty good. I know at Disneyland they'll have...
People stop and they'll stand in attention and watch the ceremony.
There's a lot of service members that you can tell that they're service members, and
they stand in the position of attention. You know, they're straight up. They don't do the heart, and they're just, you know, it's
a nice, like, real moment. It's not like a show or anything. It's real time, real life.
Because you don't see that anywhere.
No.
Like, people just stop, unless it's a federal holiday.
Right.
So it is kind of a really cool thing to see as an American citizen, to stop. Like, we're all here having fun, but, like, boom, let's show respect.
Yeah. Of course, at 4th of July, they have a fireworks show. Celebrate America.
This is the only time at Disney World where I, like, yelled, like, screaming at a guest because of how nuts this fireworks show is, where you have, like, 60,000 people all in the hub that want to watch fireworks at the castle, and where they'll open up the backsides of the park just to move people in this.
Parks are crazy during
It's a logistical nightmare, this fireworks show for the cast members.
And it sounds like they're coming back for COVID. So if you're in the parks, sounds like they're doing fireworks.
Yeah, I heard about that. Fireworks coming back for that.
Yes. So they usually do it on July 3rd and July 4th around 9:15.
Get there early. Get your spots early.
Get early if you want to watch it.
You're entitled to nothing when it comes to the show.
And then let's go to Disneyland. Of course, there is Mr. Lincoln.
It's great.
It's good. We've talked a little bit about the old Lincoln show. The current Lincoln, I like. The first part of Lincoln I like is the waiting area.
Where you get the model of the Capitol building.
Yep.
The model of the Capitol building, which was donated to Disney.
Yeah.
And then they also have, like, pictures, like paintings and different things. So it's a nice place. Like you said, when you walk in, you want to whisper. It's
Aren't there
very
paintings from an
reverent.
Imagineer?
Hmm?
Didn't an Imagineer paint those paintings?
don't know.
I thought I read that somewhere.
Not sure.
Let me know if you guys know who painted those paintings. But they were donated to Disney. I love the Virtues that they showed, the little statuettes
From
Oh,
the
yes.
American Adventure.
from the American Adventure.
Yeah, they brought that over from that.
I always thought if they ever sold those as individual statues, I would
That'd be
buy them.
great.
I would buy them.
I think that would be a great merchandising opportunity for Disney.
And then you've got, of course, Mr. Lincoln Show, which is a lot of people miss because it's at the front of the park, and you have to go to the front of the park, and a lot of people and wait for a show, but it's worth it. I love it. It's a nice time to chill,
It's
be
a good
quiet.
break in the middle of the day.
3 or 4 o'clock. Jump on the train. Get back down to Main Street.
Yeah,
Yes.
go watch the flag ceremony. Go over to see Mr. Lincoln.
And then grab dinner. It's nice because, like, I don't know, anytime I go in the show and at the end of the, like, show, you just feel good. You feel good being an American and,
Yeah. Going back to the waiting area, it's very reverent.
yeah.
It's like being in like a quiet church or a library. You feel like you're somewhere special, and it is probably like we mentioned before. It's the most reverent, quiet,
Place
peaceful.
in the park.
You can reflect. Like there's little benches, and if you want just a place to sit and relax with no people around, that would be it.
It is.
And there's no pressure. The cast members
Especially-
are just there, and they're just,
Especially as soon as one of the shows starts.
Mhm.
Because everyone goes into the theater and then that whole area is like empty because there's nobody in there. And so it's just like even if you go in, like even if you're going to go see the show, wait a show cycle so that you can just be in that room where it's all quiet and you just have like, you can reflect on what's happening.
and I think it prepares you
I think
for
so.
the show.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so nice. The AC is so good in that.
And the
room.
Disney gallery's right there as well, and there's lots of nice pictures and
I
things
think
like
that's where
that
you
to
get
look
most
at.
people coming into the show because they're like,
They want to see the art gallery.
The art gallery, yeah. And then you've got, of course, Main Street, the land itself.
Main Street, USA. Who would have thought that would be a patriotic?
That's classic American town street. You've got, of course, Frontierland. That screams American.
oh yeah, Last Frontier.
Yeah.
Well, except for space. Last
in the ocean?
the Earth. Yeah.
Isn't the ocean considered the last frontier?
I thought the Wild West was the last frontier.
I don't know.
You've got the Mark Twain Riverboat, the
Yep.
Columbia. You've got the canoes at Disneyland.
Davy Crockett
Davy
Explorer
Crockett
Canoes.
canoes.
Got Chief waves a lot.
Yeah, waves a lot. He's waving there for you.
All the time.
Yep. Of course, yeah, you got Pirate
Pirate
Cove, but it's still like has that remnants of like the old frontier.
I don't know. It's
It's
not the same.
It's not the
Yeah.
So
same.
they put the big pile of money out there, and they shut down the fort for Fantasmic. It's not quite the same.
No.
to me.
It's
And I'm also like an adult, so it's
it's got a bridge and a cave, and that's about it.
Mhm.
One show I forgot to mention at Disney World and the American Pavilion, and I'm
The Voices of Liberty.
Voices of Liberty.
That's our father's favorite.
You get chills listening to
Oh,
these.
they're
So
so
it's
good.
a group of a cappella group,
Yes,
and they
the
have amazing
acoustics.
voices.
The acoustics in the American Pavilion are amazing. So you put in some amazing singers singing some patriotic tunes.
Oh, I love
It
it.
gives everyone the chills.
Yeah, that's another reverent place. And then they also have paintings and exhibits in the American
Yes.
Pavilion.
Yes.
Love those.
Like I think right now they have the jazz.
Oh, they got that right.
They have a jazz thing going on right
I
now.
think the American Pavilion can sometimes be overlooked, but it's definitely worth going into.
Because it's right next to Germany and Japan.
Japan.
And so you're always like, oh, I gotta get my pretzel here, my snow cone over here.
Right.
hmm So those are my attractions and items.
I have one more.
Oh, yes.
that you can add, because what says patriotic more than Sam Eagle from the Muppets?
Oh, I knew you were gonna do this
Oh,
one.
yes.
Come on, because at the very end of the Muppets Vision 3D, you've got Sam. It's all like, I've got a tribute to all nations, but mostly America.
That's true. Well, I really appreciate all the research and, just talking about this just brings back all the memories of watching some of these shows on videotapes or DVDs or on Disney Plus, and going to the parks and seeing some of the shows that were there but no longer there, and what's currently there, and just getting those goosebumps, that feel good of what has happened, what has come before us, and just for us to reflect and appreciate what has happened on, with 4th of July and signing of the Declaration and gaining the independence, for that representation to dictate our own lives and freedoms. And so it's just, it's great that Walt Disney has helped us with, providing a vehicle with going to the parks or watching, and for us to remember and go that's right, we are, if you're in the U.S., you're in this country, or, this country has helped, be an example in the past or in the present with, how, democracy can work and allow people to contribute in the progression of ideas and growth and evolution, of our country. And I think that's what's great, with the, patriotism of one man and continuing it. And so, enjoy those hot dogs and burgers this 4th of July, or you may have, and just soak it all in. Enjoy this holiday and this time period and everything that comes with it. And that completes our podcast. Please follow us on our social media, Instagram, Facebook. Let us know what you do 4th of July. Let us know what you think is patriotic with Disney and the parks, media. Share, your go-tos with that. And also follow us on, is there anything else with what we need to follow on?
Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook,
YouTube.
we're on, I would say, almost every streaming podcast service.
If there is one that we're not on, let us know.
Yeah, we're just trying to get the word out there. If you got a favorite episode, share it with someone. Not everybody has to be a big Disney fan for some of our episodes. So with that saying, Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Matterhorn Yodelers. Please remember, before your bobsled comes to a complete stop, to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember...
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.